This is webinar number 2 of a 3-part series looking at applying solution-oriented approaches within the Learning Community Joint Support Team Forum. This video will give a quick overview of the format of solution-oriented meetings, the agenda of JST case presentations, structured in such a way as to facilitate the best outcomes and next steps to support young people. There are a number of different roles within the LCJST. Everyone in attendance is expected to contribute in order to make the forum as solution-oriented as possible, as everyone in attendance will bring expertise from a different area. The 5 main roles are shown here. Firstly, the facilitator, usually the JST chair, is responsible for ensuring the solution-oriented meeting structure is followed and that everyone in attendance has a shared understanding of what's been said. They might do this by asking for clarification or checking people's understanding. They should remain open, objective and neutral. They should also ensure decisions are agreed by all and that action points have a named person and a timescale. Secondly, the case presenter or referrer will describe the young person's referral information to the group, following the solution-oriented meeting format and times. Referral information should be shared with everyone in advance of the meeting, so this does not usually need to be covered again in full, just the key points. The referrer must have actively sought parental consent for presentation of a young person at the JST. Thirdly, the timekeeper will make sure the allocated timings for each section of the solution-oriented meeting are followed, usually giving a 1-minute warning when allocated time for describing risks or strengths is nearly up. More condensed timings might be agreed if there are a lot of referrals to be covered in one JST meeting. Fourth, the scribe will keep the minute of discussions. They might choose to do this directly onto case referral forms or in a more visual way using a flip chart. They are responsible for ensuring that any desired outcomes and actions are clearly recorded and sharing these with the chair promptly following the meeting. Finally, the rest of the core group will contribute in a solution-oriented way to the discussion. They will use the 10 solution-oriented principles outlined in webinar 1 to make sure that discussions are focused on desired outcomes and actions. Staff referring a case to the JST should always share the referral information with at least the chair, but ideally everyone attending the JST in advance of the meeting. This will always include names, dates of birth, age and stage, and the young person's current attendance as a percentage. Further information might include care experience status, details of any siblings, or relevant medical history as is seen to be relevant. Your JST will have a referral form which can be filled out with all the relevant details for the young person being referred. These forms usually mirror the solution-oriented format. You should clarify with your JST chair what the exact processes around your forum are locally. These are the key stages in a solution-oriented meeting such as the JST. We will go on to outline each of these in turn. First and foremost, setting the solution-oriented scene. Given that the JST is usually attended by a regular group of staff across learning communities, chairs may not take the time at the beginning of meetings to set the scene of solution-oriented thinking. However, when this does happen, it usually involves the chair of the meeting explaining the solution-oriented meetings process, its 4 main sections, and an overarching focus on what will be done differently for the young person and on building solutions. The rest of the solution-oriented meeting format is covered for every young person presented to the JST, so one meeting may involve several cycles through the solution-oriented stages, which you can see here. First, the risks or unmet needs of the young person are shared by the referrer. This makes up a minority of the overall time in a solution-oriented discussion, but it is important to cover the key areas of concern and the reason the case is being brought to the JST. Given that the JST is a shared consultation with all staff present taking part, it can be helpful to use collective terms like us and we to develop a sense of shared responsibility. In this section, it's important that the referrer has space to articulate the young person's needs fully, and so we are not focusing on solving issues at this stage. Other members of the core group might ask questions for clarifying information or checking understanding. The young person's or parent's views on what their unmet needs are will also be relevant in this stage. Next, the strengths and resiliencies of the case are described. What is going well for the young person or in the wider situation? Here, the core group might use their solution-oriented skills to ask questions like, what's going well? What is different about times when things are better? Or when are things not so bad? Core group members may also challenge any superlative language, such as never or always, by finding exceptions, asking, when is that not the case? Because existing strengths are likely to be the source of solutions for improving outcomes, approximately double the time spent on outlining risks will be spent on identifying strengths. Remember that one of our solution-oriented principles is that people have the necessary resources to make change. With this in mind, at this stage it can be helpful to think about what positive attributes, relationships, environmental aspects, or skills within the young person or their home environment or their class could be built upon to improve and provide some suitable actions. The third section is about using the risks and strengths that have been discussed to set desired outcomes and goals. These will then inform the action planning. It's important that our outcomes are in relation to the child and their unmet need. To promote this, we try to begin desired outcome statements with Jack will or Jill can. This also helps to avoid confusing outcomes with actions, which can be tempting as we begin thinking about what should be done next. Remember at this stage that goals should be desired outcomes for the young person, not for the presenter. For example, referral to CAMS is not a goal, it's an action. Think about what goal that action would meet. What would be the desired outcome for the young person? It's also important that the desired outcomes we set are clear as to what we want to happen, that they are realistic and achievable, and also that we can measure whether we have achieved them or not. Measurement of the extent to which the JST desired outcomes are met will be covered in webinar 3 of this series, looking at goal attainment scaling. After desired outcomes have been set, it's time to plan actions. Some actions may be relevant for the young person to take forward, but the majority will be for adults around them to implement. Remember to address the who, what, when, where, and how of each action. Next steps following the JST should be clear to anyone reading the minutes of discussion and be very detailed. A date for reviewing progress of the young person's referral will often be arranged, typically a few months after their first presentation at the JST. Finally, a constructive summary is given by the JST chair. This will cover the main points of the core group's discussion, a balanced consideration of risks and strengths, and again will make sure that actions from the meeting are clear. Feedback may be gathered on the usefulness of the solution-oriented process, or this might be done less frequently throughout the year at JST self-evaluations. The chair will then draw the meeting to a close. You can find more information on solution-oriented approaches, including handouts and resources, at Glasgow Educational Psychology Services website under the Solution-Oriented Approaches tab. For more information on solution-oriented approaches, you can Google search Solution-Oriented Approaches Glasgow or find us via the Glasgow Educational Psychology Service website at the following Glow Scotland blog location.